Good Monday evening to you all out there. Welcome into another episode of the OBR Game Tape here on the OBR Streaming Network. If you're checking us out, wherever you're checking us out, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go over to youtube.com/Orange and Brown Report. We are pushing for 10,000. We're past 9.5 thousand. We're pushing for that 10,000 mark. So we're super excited about that. So we appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that like button at the bell so you know every time we post some content. This is pre-recorded as always. I apologize, so we won't be interacting with you live, but I'm sorry about that. I'm Jacob. That's Sam. We're here today to talk about Jamari Thrash. Sam, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing well. Trying to recover inside from the 100-degree temperatures outside in Ohio, like we talked about last week. It's just not letting up, and I'm not happy about it.
It keeps like saying it too. It's like, hey, we're gonna break the heat wave tomorrow at 8, and you're like, okay, because like first it was like Wednesday at 8, it was going to like be a break, and then by the time we got to Wednesday morning, it was like, no, it'll be Thursday at 8 p.m. And like we got a little bit of a reprieve when it rained, but then like the humidity started decided it wanted to set in, and it just it was pretty crazy. So
fun.
Little bit of Browns news that I wanted to touch on before we get into talking about Jamari Thrash. They released Obo Okoronkwo on Thursday. A kind of a move that I think a lot of people aren't super surprised, maybe surprised about it, why it took so long or why it happened when it happened. But it's not a move I think people were overly surprised about. I'll ask you, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm also not very surprised that it happened. They have a rather deep edge room. It's not as deep as it was last year, but it has a group of guys who can play. It's just a matter of how much do we like these young guys versus the more proven veteran player, but who's also making more money. And how do we kind of view this upcoming season, right? So I think a lot of people are expecting the Browns to not be a super competitive team because, just the state of the rosters and the state of the division and the conference is in. And because it looks like the Browns are pushing that competition window out at least a year, hopefully getting their franchise quarterback next year. So having said that, I don't know how much sense it makes to keep a veteran like Okoronkwo on the roster as a rotational player. I doubt he was going to be the starter, right? He's probably not getting starter reps over Isaiah McGuire. So I think it makes more sense to get the young guys more snaps, see what they can do. And I don't think you're losing much, if any, on-field production for that. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it just wasn't what you thought it was going to be when you made the signing. It never lived up. I don't think he was a bad player. Like, would I be upset if he was still here? No, like that would be fine. Like he's given you some juice, but we'll talk about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka next week on Game Tape, and that's kind of I think the reason he gets pushed out. Jake Burns was talking about this over at Brown Film Breakdown. Like, they're at a crossroads with this roster with a lot of these young players coming into the final year of their contracts. Alex Wright being one of them coming back from injury. So yeah, rather you think they're tanking or competitive or not, they do need to find out about a lot of these guys. So and I wonder too why, some people ask why it happened when it happened. I wonder if they wanted to get a look at Alex Wright and see how healthy he looked in OTAs and whatnot, which the rumor is he was moving around really well. And I wonder that you can only designate two guys as post-June 1 cuts, and they had already done that with Juan Thornhill and Dalvin Tomlinson. And I wonder if they I like that they did it a month before camp so he has time to go catch on somewhere, and he's not trying to play catch up at the end of camp. Like with the way they did Joe Hayden, like when they cut Joe Hayden, like what was it, like right after the preseason? I don't remember, but I remember it being like right before the season, and he goes to Pittsburgh and then just like kills them or whatever. But yeah, that's my thought on that too. I'm with you. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. This is not going to be the reason I go, oh, this team's tanking. but like it's definitely like a move to say, hey, we got to find out about some of these young guys. And it's also, I think, a move that says we believe in some of these young guys, Isaiah McGuire being specifically one of them. Training camp dates are out for everybody. They will have 8 joint practices, or I'm sorry, 8 joint practices. It'd be a hell of a training camp if you had 8 joint practices days. Like, that's my bad. But they will have 8 open practices to the public. Those dates are available. You can go check us out over at theobr.com. We've got all that stuff. I think season ticket holders can get tickets to camp starting on the 2nd. And then everyone else can get camp tickets starting on July 3rd. So check that out if you want to go over there and check it out. So now we're going to get into Jamari Thrash. We're going to kind of do it similar to what me and Sam did for Isaiah McGuire last week. I'm going to start with my scouting report and articles that I had written right after the draft on Jamari Thrash. And then Sam's going to kind of give some of his breakdown on Jamari Thrash. Then I'm going to show some of the college tape that I have cut up. And Sam's got some of his preseason tape from last year, so we can kind of see how that stuff kind of went along. So I wrote this article at the time I was writing for Browns Wire, and I wrote this article literally right after the pick. It was kind of funny, though, because like one of the first things I wrote is I would have rather had Malik Washington at this pick. It was, I don't know why I had to throw that jab in at Jamari Thrash, but like right after the kid got drafted, I threw that on the internet. Like, that's kind of rude. So like I said, I wrote in there, I was like, oh, it looks like they're loading up on offensive weapons to try to make this thing around Deshaun Watson. And that was a thing. That was a thing I wrote last April. One thing that I wanted to note, because a lot of people are going to bring this up, there were some drop issues with Jamari Thrash at Louisville, but I pointed out half of his career drops. He had 4 years at Georgia State. Half of his career drops came while he was at Louisville, his final year in 2023, but he also dealt with a broken wrist down the stretch, and most of the drops after that broken wrist.
Yep.
So people want to talk about that because it is a talking point. It is a talking point. There's a little spam comment for you, but it is a talking point. But like, just to be known that there was a lot of routine drops that only showed up when he was hurt. Like the rest of his tape, I didn't see it. Lighter wide receiver, under 190 pounds. He might even be closer to 185, at least what he played in college. 5'11", first team All Sun Belt in 2022, second team All ACC in 2023. He ran a 4.46 40-yard dash with a pretty nice 1.52 10-yard split. I think there's some explosiveness off the line of scrimmage from him. So yeah, he spent 4 years at Georgia State. So one thing that I think I got comments on, because I wrote an article about this with Jamari Thrash, for the website. And one thing that I got was there was a lot of people that said he looked lost, like he didn't know the playbook and some things like that. He played most of his collegiate career at Georgia State and then had 1 year in a big time FBS level program at Louisville. And it reminds me kind of the rookie year of Cedric Tillman, where it was like Tillman came from this incredibly simplistic offense at Tennessee that he didn't know the like little nuanced things of playing the position and like the more complicated playbooks. And I think that happened to Thrash too. And I think that has to do with the fact that most of his collegiate career was at Georgia State and he had just the 1 year at Louisville. And I think I just wanted to like kind of point that out, that I think that there was a big learning curve for him last year. In the regular season. So he had 848 yards on 62 catches and 6 touchdowns last year. But in 2022 at Georgia State, he had 1,100 yards on 62 catches. He had 62 catches then as well for 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 8.1 yards per catch there. I really like his route running. I think he's kind of a natural separator. I think he does pretty good. What I specifically wrote here, the Browns have started collecting great route runners. And because last offseason they had Amari Cooper, and then they traded for Jerry Jeudy, and then they drafted Amari Thrash. And it's like, we want guys that do those things well. I think he's got really nice body control, which is, I think, kind of goes hand in hand with some of these great route runners, is like their ability to start, stop, and get in and out of breaks and not round off routes. I think his good long speed, 4.46 long speed, good first step off the line of scrimmage. I really think he's a really smooth, fluid athlete, and I love what he does after the catch with the ball in his hands after the catch. He's not going to run away from a bunch of people, but he's got enough speed at 4.46 to like be like, okay, I can do. It's not nothing, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Let's see. Alignment versatility. Lined him up inside, outside. I think he's an inside guy. I think he's a slot guy in the NFL just because of his size and things. Let's see. Here's the comment I put. I would have taken Malik Washington. I think he tracks the deep ball well, so he can use that good long speed pretty well. Limited catch radius because he does have short arms on top of being slightly under 6 foot. But like I just love him in the open field, the way he can create after the catch, and it's just he could create separation, he could create extra yardage, and I think he really could have a role this year.
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of the same things just watching him coming out. And again, he was a 5th-round pick, so it wasn't like you were expecting, big things out of him as a rookie, especially with, his limited experience at a higher level of competition. And I think his very limited role as a rookie kind of, proved that. That being said, he did win the team's Best Rookie of Training Camp award. So, I mean, that's something. And I thought he played well in the preseason, against guys at a similar talent level. I thought he played well. He racked up 10 catches for 41 yards and a touchdown over his 3 games. And I thought he did some good things, some things that looked promising for his NFL future. And I think the hope is that this season, especially with a much thinner wide receiver room, he'll be able to show some more of that in the regular season, provided he makes the team. So I think that's kind of where we are with him. There's a lot of unknowns still because he didn't see the field much, but that could very well change this season.
Yeah, it can be difficult with some of these things. Former day 3 pick, and then it's like, yeah, he got 6 targets, 7 targets, something like that. I think he ran like 90 routes or something, but they didn't look his direction. So, like, I got some comments that were like, he didn't show any physical talent last year, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we don't unless you studied the all 22 and found him on every single rep and watched every route. We don't really know because he wasn't given those opportunities. And it's not like he was just standing there on those plays and he never got open. He never got the chances. And we know that part of that reason is a lot of his chances came with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And there's only so much you could do with the way the offense was humming. Is that a word? That's a word. Well, I wouldn't use it for that offense though. It's not the greatest. All right, I'm going to jump in here. We're going to start here with some of his college tape that I've got cut up. Let's see. I want to go over here. Talk about some of the route running, some of the separation stuff. You can see him here in the slot. He got quite a bit of action, I think, out of the slot as well at Louisville. But, I do think his slot action was kind of my computer's not letting me hit play. Hold on just a second. Let me get this thing.
Technical difficulties. They were bound to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, my computer recently has decided that it will just periodically want to be slow. Like, it'll be great, and then periodically be like, I'm going to be slow for now. Like, I'm just going to.
We had a good run.
Yeah, it's not even a year old. He's here in the slot. You can see him.
There we go.
Just getting vertical. There's that long speed, tracks the ball. Boom. So, again, not going to go and wow you in terms of like, this is not Tyreek Hill. Not what I'm saying. So don't get that twisted. But as you see, if he's allowed to, they don't like, this is one of the issues with him is because of his size. Like if you don't get physical with him and chip him and you let him get up there, he has 4.46 speed. He can get vertical. And you can see he has to throttle down just a little bit, and he's running out of room. It was not a bad throw by the quarterback. So, because he is in fact running out of real estate. So, but he beats the defender on a so much that when he has to slow down and it gives him a chance the DBs to catch up, they don't have enough time to cover as big of a gap as he created. But yeah, you see him down here. He's just going to go vertical. Just simple. Kind of gives a little bit of a fake like he's going to go to the outside. Tracks that ball beautifully. Touchdown. See him
that's something he did, I think, a lot more at his previous stop that Louisville didn't necessarily do as much with him, but that is a skill set that he brings, and he even showed that deep threat ability in the preseason. So, there's a skill set he does have. It's not going to be his bread and butter, but he's not a guy that you can just totally ignore deep, because if you do that, he'll make you pay.
Yeah, it's funny because when I went to cut up this tape for the article and for this episode, obviously it's been about a year since I had really dove in on Jamari Thrash. And so I went back to watch some more of it. And I'm like, I think I remember him being more vertical. And it was because when I had studied him for the draft, I had watched a good amount of the Georgia State tape as well. And when I was cutting this up, I didn't. I just watched the Louisville tape. And so I'm glad you pointed that out, because it confused me for a second, because I'm like, I swear to God, he did more vertical work, because I just didn't see a lot of it in the Louisville tape. But like, it's there. Here's an example of the acceleration, and where I think he can get to that speed. Not necessarily to his top speed quickly, but he can get up to a good speed quickly. You see him here, standing here at the top of the screen. It is a screen pass, but you'll see him. There's a good amount of yardage here. You'll see him catch the ball and just straight up. He can get those 5, 6, 7 yards. I love him on the screen passes, because I think his type of explosiveness and acceleration to get to a good speed is there. So it's like, oh, he can eat up yards. And I also think for a dude that's sub 190, I think he runs more physical than you expect him to.
Mm-hmm. There's a preseason rep that shows that it's actually a pretty impressive play. We'll get to that
every
later.
time I see it, I'd be like, am I sure that was Jamari Thrash? Like you don't see that out of some of these speedy or smaller guys. But just, and then here he, takes a hit, goes down, but he's able to get you. I think it was about 7 or 8 yards, and I think when he motions from the slot to the outside, but like that's an easy kind of throw for your quarterback, and I think he can be one of those guys that can get you solid, easy gains to like settle your quarterback in, which could end up being a big deal if you're at some point, which I think you will at some point, see one, if not both of the rookies play this year. At the bottom of the screen here, just kind of, and there's the physicalness there to eat up extra yardage. But you see him, he kind of fakes him like he's going to go vertical and then slams on the brakes and comes back. And because you can see how off they're playing him here, they know they're respecting that vertical speed that he does have. And he's able, kind of, to me, and maybe I'm misreading that, it looks like he starts to shift to the outside, like he's going to go outside, and then he just slams on the brakes, and that's where that body control comes into play. He just slams on the brakes, comes back to the ball, and then decides he's going to like power run it at the end. You do boop. He's going to, and he gets through there. Like, that's a 185-pound wide receiver. And I think the DBs, they thought, we'll just lower our shoulder and hit him. He'll go down, because it doesn't look like they tried to wrap him up very much. And they're like, oh shit. Yeah, I think I do need to wrap him up. Up here at the top of your screen here. Another one where he's just going to use that, and then he's going to kind of fight, claw, try to get some more yardage. He's up at the top of the screen here. For some reason, I didn't highlight that for you, so I apologize. But yeah, just an example of the route running where he can kind of threaten you, but also the body control to make a comeback route. Dude, when I play NCAA and Madden, I love that route because if you time it right, it's open. Now, if you play late and you throw it out there, you throw a bunch of pick sixes like I do in NCAA college football. But
I've never done that in my life.
I did it like 4 times.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I did it like 4 times yesterday, and I'm like, you would think like it wasn't like I played in the morning and the evening. No, it was like in consecutive games. I did it like 2, 3, 4 times, and I'm like, dude, you just did it. You just did it. I think I did it on back-to-back drives too. I'm like, you just did it. You literally just
always did it. It's the little like you can throw it. There's enough time. You can do it.
Just make sure you hold the button so it's a hard throw. Don't float it out there.
Yeah, then it'll work.
Put all the velocity on. It'll be perfectly fine. It's like, no, it won't. It'll be a pick. And he's going to return it for a touchdown. It's like, I play I don't know if you've done this. I do I like to play the like create a player road to glory, I think is what they call it on College Football 25. And so I started my career with Harold Fandon at Bowling Green, and I just threw Harold Fandon the ball for like 15 times a game. Like I was just like, just give it Harold Fandon. And,
so exactly what happened to Harold Fandon in college.
Yes, exactly. I think he had like 1,800 yards. I think I just kept throwing. I think the next wide receiver had like 500 on the year. Like, you have nearly a 2,000-yard receiver, and then I transferred to Notre Dame. I don't know what. Mainly because I could just hand it off to Jeremiah Love. I'm just like, go. So yeah, you're going to see him kind of in a short pass here. He's going to be right here at the top of your screen all alone. And just, 3 yards, 4 yards there after contact. Spinning, trying to stop, a little bit of power there. Just things you like to see that you don't often see out of a guy of his size. He's at the bottom of the screen here. And this just smooth, fluid, creates extra yardage. I love that. I love that little double move there.
Mm-hmm. It's subtle, but it works.
It's hilarious because he then does go outside. It's not like it's completely different from the route that he's going to run. But he comes out here and he just kind of, the fake out on the inside. My bad. But yeah, it works. He's wide open. I like this play here because he puts a guy on the dirt. He loves to block. At least try to block. You don't expect a guy like that to be of his size to be that strong. But here he is again, just weaving his way through, accelerating, creating yardage after the catch. Take this down for a second. I got 3 more plays for you that I made in a second video. These plays. You better. I didn't know that there was audio on these. There we go. If I leave the audio one, they'll probably demonetize us, so let's not do that. All right. Is this that same play? That might be the same play.
Different angle, though.
Yeah, well, that was what I was thinking. I found these are actual game broadcast clips that I found that I really like. Just creating after the catch. Shifty, sidestep. Here he's going to and now, like I said, he's got good speed. He can do that. You see him kind of one guy falls down here, I know, but like the guy's the poor forces a poor angle. The other guy's got a good shot at him there. Number 12's got a good shot at him, but he's got enough speed, enough, you know, to get vertical like that. But yeah, that's what I have on Jamari Thrash. So now I will give you the floor, Mr. Penix.
So I love this play because it's an incompletion. Like the ball is completely airmailed, nowhere near, but the route he runs here is so good. So he's up at the top of the screen here, and he gives a head fake. He gets the defender in his blind spot, and then he breaks it off so hard, and he gets the defender stumbling towards the end zone, and it creates a good amount of separation, but it's just so fun to watch. And this is from a 5th round rookie, so
yeah,
boom. Like the nuance in route running and the athletic ability to be able to put your foot in the ground and just stop all your momentum there, it's pretty impressive. Boom. I love that. That's one of my favorite reps from him all preseason. He was open a lot. Let me pull this one up. So here, let's see. Is he in the slot down here? So they mixed and matched with him inside and outside, which I thought was good. But again, I think he's a slot guy, especially with the kind of receivers they have on the roster right now, notably Tillman and Judy. He's the slot. So, I mean, there he gets past the defender into this window. Up here at the top, he's going to run a corner. He's going to be open for touchdown, but Winston isn't able to quite hit him. Up here again, outside at the top. I think this is the one that he. This one's pretty cool. It's a short, inside route here. Boom. Shrugs the guy off. And like guy tries to bear hug him, jumps. He's also getting tackled by the guy on the ground here. But again, it's that underrated physicality that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a guy his size, but he has it. Then here's some reps of him against zone coverage, which he doesn't have to make those hard breaks or head fakes or whatever against zone, but he also has a good understanding of where the soft spots are going to be based on the coverage, and that's a very valuable skill to have, especially when you're a slot receiver. So he's down at the bottom here, open in that range there. Let's see. Now he's in the slot right here. Open on the corner out. And he's up at the top now. Again, open here. Make nice catch too. Good throw, nice catch. Over the middle. Holds on.
It's probably the best catch throw of DTR's career, and it didn't count.
Yeah, that was it was a good throw. I'll say that. It's another good route. Finds the soft spot, makes the catch there, and then in motion at the top, coming in, just your out route, does enough to get open and makes the grab. Let's see what else we got. He's also, I think he's a threat with the ball in his hands. Like we already saw some of that in college, but I think that's possible in the NFL here. So, right, he's not the most explosive guy, but he does have some explosiveness. He's not the fastest long-term guy, but again, 4.46 speed, and I think he just has, like you were talking about, he's got the body control to where he can maximize the physical skill set that he does have and get those 4 or 5 yards, that you have to be able to have the athletic ability to get. So, on screens like this, he can get what's manufactured there and a little bit more. And we'll finish up here with, it's my last clip. This is his long touchdown against the Seahawks. So he's lined up. This is him down here. Seahawks are gonna bite on Jalen Darden here. That's gonna leave Thrash open for a touchdown, and Winston hits him. Or I'm sorry, DTR hits him. He is wide open. So Darden's running the crosser here, middle of the field. The safeties are right here. They bite a little bit, and then number 8 here especially is running with this guy over here, and he completely just forgets about Thrash, and the corner just can't keep up. So, Thrash even he shifts down a gear because he's not sure, what DTR is going to do, but he's able to adjust, pick back up the 6th gear, and then make the touchdown catch. So that's his preseason. There's some, interesting, encouraging things I think there, especially for a 5th round pick. Like you said, he didn't play much. I think he hit like 90 routes or something like that, 6 targets. Not really anything to write home about. And the majority of that was, late in the year when the season was already over. It didn't really benefit them to win games. So, he's going to be in a competition with a couple of the end of the roster guys, but I think I don't want to say he has an inside track, but I think it helps him because he made the 53 last year, right, when they had more talent in the room. So a guy like Michael Woods, who, played for him, I think Woods even played more than Thrash did. Like, you verify this so I don't look like a full more than normal. Yeah. So he played 211 snaps, or about 198, 200 pass routes late in the season. How many catches? He had 7 catches. So I mean, again, not much for Woods, but he played more than Thrash did. But Woods didn't make the initial 53. So there's some history there of, even though he wasn't a big factor, the Browns clearly liked him enough to keep him on the roster. And maybe that was because they felt, even if he doesn't play much for us, we're not envisioning him playing much, if we put him on the practice squad, we're going to lose the guy. Mm-hmm. And, maybe that says a lot about how they're feeling about him in year 2. We'll have to see, but I think at this point, especially with the talent they have in the receiver room, I would be pretty surprised if Thrash didn't make the roster. And I think as a wide receiver, wide receiver 3 is kind of like up in the air right now.
Yeah.
So, you have Judy and Tillman. You don't really have much else, proven there. So he's going to have the opportunity to compete for what's essentially a starting job. So it's a big opportunity for him, and we'll see, what he can do with it.
It almost feels like they redshirted him.
Yeah.
And then he kind of played out of necessity at the end of the year when they were just trying to see, because they were trying to see about DTR and things like that. And I think they were probably trying to do a little bit of tanking there towards the end, but they kind of like put him out there. If they had been in a playoff run, I don't know that he runs like 100 routes. Like, I don't know that he does. Maybe he does, but like, at a certain point, you let him run some of the routes and you don't get Jerry Jeudy hurt.
Right.
Stuff like stuff like that happens in the tail end of the year. One thing I wanted to point out is, again, we've said it a million times, you can't take a ton from OTAs, a ton from these unpadded practices, but he is a guy they've talked about. I know that Ashley Bastock from Cleveland.com named him as one of the players that was impressive for her when media was there at both OTAs and mini camp and mandatory camp. And I also pointed out he was brought up by passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach Chad O'Shea talked about him, and this was in the article that I wrote. He said that, I think this is significant because I think the same thing happened with JOK last year, but he discussed that it's very clear that Jamari Thrash has been working hard away from the facility. And if you remember last year, Jason Tarver talked about JOK needing to put on some size and strength and power away from the facility. He needed to do it before they came back, and which is what JOK did, and it was why he took it to a whole nother level. Because he was more, I think he was more durable until the, kind of freak accident that ended his season. But I think that's significant. He said he was very pleased with his work ethic and his performance on the field. And that he had improved in areas they asked him to before OTAs started. So he was, even before OTAs, just from the end of the season to them coming back in the spring, he was, whatever it was that they asked him to do, he did it. And so I think that's significant for a team. Like you said, I think it's Tillman and Judy, and then it's like, you hope Deontay Johnson. There's the weird Deontay Johnson quote. I don't want to get into the weird Deontay Johnson quotes from this past week. But like, even if Deontay Johnson makes the roster, it's just only 3 guys. Like the opportunity is there for Jamari Thrash, and really for a lot of these guys. Like what's it, Cade McDonald? I like him quite a bit. I'm curious to see what he does. Him and Luke Floria and all these UDFAs they brought in. They brought in a ton of these guys, and I'm very excited to see potentially what those guys do. But it's just wide open there, man.
Yeah, it is, and I feel like it's the kind of the first time in a while. I mean, the Browns receiver rooms haven't been fantastic, going back years and years, but I think it's the first time in a while where a starting spot, for a slot guy gets a pretty good amount of targets, especially I think, in the Kevin Stefanski offense. I think that's a valuable role. So it's the first time in a while where a major role is really up in the air, up for grabs with a bunch of unproven players. We're not really used to that, and so it should be an interesting battle in training camp to follow.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up on this video. It'd help us out a ton. Hit that bell. Tomorrow, Tuesday, so Jeff Lloyd back with Browns 3D at 6, and then the React with Pete Smith and Brad Ward at 7. We appreciate you all very, very much for being here. We'll see you guys again next week as we break down some tape of Joe Tryon and Shainka. Until then, go Browns.